So if we have a question like this, because we need to do some factoring practice, let's say we have something like this, 24h squared plus 50h minus 14. And I ask you to factor this. Okay? Remember, the first thing you always look for is what? Greatest common factor. Good. So look at the numbers and look at the variables. Okay? There's no h on this one, so we cannot pull an h out as a common factor. Okay? But can we pull out a common factor between these three numbers? Is it easily, or are they all evenly divisible by 2, let's say? Yes, they are. Is there a larger number that all of these are evenly divisible by? 5? Nope. Any more? Okay. Let's take 2 out and let's see if that's the one. Okay, I'm going to take a 2 out. I'm going to be left with 12h squared. Again, that is 24h squared divided by 2. That's my answer. Put it right there. What's 50h divided by 2? That is plus 25h. What's negative 14 divided by 2 is negative 7. Okay, so look again. You can always check to see if we've taken out the greatest common factor by checking again if there are any common factors that are noticeable here. Is there a common factor between these three terms here? Nope. 7's prime. No. We're good. Okay, so now the second question is then, can we factor this? Can we factor this trinomial? There is a possibility that we cannot factor it, but we need to try. We need to check. Okay? And again, you can do this one of two ways that I've shown you. You can do it by intuition, which means you basically do trial and error and some mental math, or you can do it by decomposition. I'll do it by decomposition because most of you seem to default to that. So 12 times negative 7 is what? What's that? Negative 84. Okay. What are the factors of negative 84? And can we find a factor of negative 84 that adds up to 25? That's the question. So what are the factors of 84? Well, we have 7 and 12, obviously. Okay. So we have 7 and 12. Will any combination of plus or minus 12 and 7 add up to 25? No. So those ones are out. We need some bigger numbers here. So what? 28 and? 28 and negative 3. Okay, wonderful. So those multiply to negative 84, and they do add up to this. So decomposition says, we still write this 2 out there. Many of you forget the 2. Do not forget the 2. It's still part of the factored form. But what we're going to do is we're going to decompose the middle term. So this is going to be plus 28h minus 3h. It does not matter which order you put that in. Doesn't matter at all, because you'll get the same answer in the end. But you have to decompose this middle term. That's called the method of factoring by decomposition. So now what we do is we factor by grouping. So we group the first 2 terms, group the second 2 terms, and we take common factors out of there. That's all we do. Write the 2. What's the largest or greatest common factor here? Okay, 4 maybe. Okay, so is 4 look good? 6 doesn't work, right? So 4. So let's take a 4. What about the variables? Is there at least one h in both terms? Yeah, so we have to take out a 4h. Everybody see that? This is now 3h left over, because 4h times 3h gives us this again. Right? Plus, what's 28h divided by 4h is 7. Okay? So that's the first part. Now we got to go over here to the second part. Now, you notice that we almost have the same, like these are almost the same here, except for that nasty negative. So guess what? Let's take out a negative 1 from this second group, because that's the greatest common factor. We don't have anything else. We take out a negative 1, we get positive 3h plus 7. And that is great because we have the same now common factor in there. So this is 2 times, what's my common factor? 3h plus 7 times, what's left over? 4h minus 1. All right. Now that should be our final answer. There's no common factors in here. Again, always check to see if there's any common factors, because you might have to do some more factoring. If you haven't pulled out a greatest common factor in the question here, you might have another factor that you notice at the end. Okay, and of course we could check this by multiplying. So let's just check this. Okay, what's 2 times 3h plus 7? That's going to be what? 6h plus 14. I need to multiply that by 4h minus 1. FOIL method, or distributing the terms, right? This is going to be 24h squared. That's the first multiplication. And then minus 6h. 14 times 4 is what? 56. H minus 14. When I gather these like terms, I get 24h squared. Negative 6 plus 56 is plus 50h minus 14. And that is the exact same as the question we started off with. Okay? So that means the check, it checks out. So what's my answer? What do I circle when I'm done? Do I circle this check right here? There's my answer, I'm done. Nope. Don't circle that. Where's your answer? Right here. That's what you circle. And for some of you, you're showing all the work and all the check, and you're not circling anything. You're not declaring any answer. Okay, that's not good enough. You have to declare what your answer is. Very important. I can see all your work, but I'm not going to be sifting through everything to find out if you know what the answer is. Okay? So declare what your answer is, but you can include a check. Any questions on that? No? Okay. I'm going to do some more here, because these were questions that you guys got tripped up on. Okay? So from the quiz, I'm going to look at some questions here. Let's see. Okay, so let's do this one. Let's factor this one right here. Factor 162 minus 2w to the 4. Okay. So there's our question. Now, many of you got tripped up on this, and one of the questions was, is this a perfect square trinomial? Is it a difference of squares, or is it neither? Okay. Well, you look at this, and you might say, you know what? This is not a difference of squares. It's a difference, but these are not perfect squares. Okay? Okay. Can this be written as a difference of squares? Can this be written as a difference of squares? Might be a different question. But can this be written as a difference of squares? Well, there's a common factor here. There's a greatest common factor. So if I took out a 2, what would this look like? What would be left over? 81 minus w to the 4. Okay? So now, this can be factored as a difference of squares, because we do have a difference of squares in here. So, you know, you kind of have to be careful. Okay? Can you factor this as a difference of squares? Is a good question. The answer is yes, but you have to pull out a common factor first. Okay? Is this statement a difference of two perfect squares? No, because those are not perfect squares. But don't stop there. If you see this, don't stop there. Say, hey, GCF, I got to do that first. All right. So now you look at this, and you say to yourself, is that a perfect square number? Yep. Is this a perfect square number or a term? Yes. It's w squared times w squared. So leave your common factor out there. Do not forget about it. And let's factor this as a difference of squares. 9, 9. W squared, w squared. Again, I'm just taking the square roots of each of these perfect squares. Plus, minus. Okay. Let's check it. What's this multiplication first? That's going to be 18 plus 2w squared. And I have to multiply that by this to see if I get the original question. Okay, so what's 18 times 9 is going to be what? Going to be 162. 162 minus 18w squared plus 18w squared minus 2w to the 4th. These terms are like terms. Negative 18 plus 18 cancel each other out. I get 162 minus 2w to the 4th. That is the same as the original question. So I'm doing this pretty fast, I know, but you might take a little bit more time to do what I'm doing. But this is the process that you want to follow to make sure that you're correct. You do not have to check every time, but if you want to check, or if you're asked to check on the test, then that's what you would show. All right? If you have the time, then you should go back and check every question. Okay? Do not hand your test in a half an hour early if you haven't checked every question. Okay? Because none of you are getting 100% when you hand your test in a half an hour early. I know you're awesome and everything. But check your test. Check your questions. Show a check like this for each one, if you have the time. Okay? Okay, another thing I noticed in these quizzes were this. This is one other thing. So 4g squared minus 9h squared, let's say. The question was, identify this polynomial as a perfect square trinomial, a difference of squares, or neither. Okay? Well, this one should be pretty easy. Is that a difference of squares? Is this a perfect square? Yes. Is this a perfect square? Yes. Is it written as a difference? Yes. I'm not sure what else you need to check. Many of you got this wrong. I think because some of you are mixing up perfect square trinomials and difference of squares. So this is a difference of squares. Okay? And this is the one that you factor with the plus and the minus. Okay? So this is 2g here, 2g here. This is 3h here, 3h here, plus, minus. Done. Okay? That's how you factor difference of squares. Now, some of you are getting that mixed up with something like this. Okay, watch this now. 4g squared minus 9h squared. If we were to square this, that's a different question, isn't it? If you were to multiply that out, that's a different question. So this is expanding. All right? And some of you, okay, I don't know if this is an issue for some of you, but these are different things. Factoring this, expanding this out. You have to do the FOIL method. I'm not going to do that one. But the other, so just so you know, those are different. Okay? The other one that you guys had problems with, okay, was factoring perfect square trinomials. And this showed up quite a few times. So let me just grab a question here. Okay, so this one here, factor this, 64 minus 176r plus 121r squared. Okay, so factor. Okay. Now, a lot of you looked at this and said, hey, that's a perfect square, and looked at this, hey, that's a perfect square. So then you kind of got mixed up in your brain that this was going to be like a difference of squares factoring. Okay? You don't do this, okay? This is what you don't do. Don't go 8, 11r, 11r, plus, minus, done. Don't do that, because this doesn't check out. Why do I know that? When you do your FOIL, you're going to have a middle term that's gone. This is going to end up to be 64 minus 121r squared. That's what this is going to end up to be. So this is not factored correctly. If it has a middle term like that, that means that it could be a perfect square trinomial, which means that these factors must be identical. That's what a perfect square trinomial is. And so this is a negative, right? It's a very large negative number. So let's put two minuses in there and check to see if this is what we're going to get. So again, let's check this. Check. 8 times 8 is 64. 8 times negative 11 is negative 88r. Negative 11 times positive 8 is negative 88r. Negative 11r times negative 11r is plus 121r squared. Negative 88r and negative 88r put together is negative 176r. So you do get the same one. So this is correct right here. Another way to write that would be 8 minus 11r squared. Okay? So that's another way to write that. Questions? Okay, so greatest common factor, factoring trinomials, decomposition method, difference of squares, perfect square trinomials. You need to have all those straightened out. For the test tomorrow, you also need to know how to prime factor a number, take the prime factors of a number, right, with the factor tree or whatever you're going to do, how to find the lowest common multiple, and how to find the greatest common factor. So that's from the first half of the chapter. So it's a big one. Going to give you another half an hour here or so to work on that. I have adjusted the review assignment, so we're going to add a few more questions, and I want you to study hard, make up a cue card if you want to, summarize your studying there. It's an important thing to do, and I'll give you the rest of that review.